And I'm really delighted to be facilitating a conversation now between three industry experts and from a range of different perspectives. One is Sam Allert, who needs probably very little introduction to you, but Sam is the CEO of the Reckon Group, and today wearing the hat of representing IPA Books Plus. And so Sam will be joining us in a second. It's great to have Sam, and we do very much value the partnership we have with Reckon and Sam and the team and Books Plus. We've got Alex Brgudac, who's here from the head of partnerships from Prospa as well. So it's great to have Alex with us, and importantly also Luke Sullivan, who's managing director of what's called Creative and the marketing organisation. But Ceezar is here. They're actually out here as well to talk about platforms to assist accounting practices. So please join me in welcoming Sam, Alex, and Luke to the stage. Thank you. To do the fun part of playing Oprah. Well, that's probably not really. Not too sure that's the right thing to say.
Do I win a car?
You get a car, Alex. Yeah, that's right. You get CPD points. No, right, yeah. So what we've got in the next little while between now and lunch, which is always really precarious, isn't it, to be sitting between lunch, is actually looking at how we, as a profession, as a small business community, importantly, prepare for what's ahead. And what I'm going to do is ask each of our experts to give us their sense as to what they've noticed in the last 12 months in their own necks of the woods. So we've obviously got from the financing side with Prospa, we've got creative and marketing side with Luke, and obviously IT companies, tech digitisation with Sam. Just from each of your perspectives, how have you navigated your own businesses, importantly, and what have you seen in the various markets you're operating with? Sam, I might start with you.
Yeah, okay, well, good morning everyone. I think we're just still in the morning. In the morning time, I should say, not morning COVID. But can I just start with a very quick story? Just prior to, obviously this time last year, when Grand Prix were getting cancelled and lockdowns were starting and we're all freaking out, or at least I was, that was the last time I was actually at a conference on stage, and it was an IPA conference. So can I just say congrats to the IPA, congrats to all of you. It is wonderful to actually be attending a face-to-face conference with people in the room. Yeah. So awesome job. I think you're the only industry body that is actually running face-to-face conferences. We ran a couple in Queensland last week as a technology company, but all around the country, the IPA is running these face-to-face conferences. So I'm just thrilled to be here, and I know the team are very happy. But well done, Andrew and the IPA.
Thanks, Sam. Unfortunately, that's all we've got time for.
Forget the question now. What we've seen over the last 12 months, I think it's been obviously, disruptive is a word that I think I've never used as much as I have in the last 12 months. Disruptive and unprecedented. And I think, if I think about the accounting profession and small businesses, and Andrew, we were talking about this, is how are small businesses going to come out of COVID, and what's the economy looking like? Reading the recent NAB sort of economic outlook and business confidence, believe it or not, we're at a 10-year high of business confidence. So this is my view, I should say, Sam Allet's view rather than Reckon. What we've got is you've got some businesses that applied for JobKeeper. Things were really bad in March, April, May. They got JobKeeper, but then a lot of businesses turned around that we're aware of. And government stimulus, and I think our governments did an amazing job, but the government stimulus did exactly what it meant to do. It stimulated the economy. So if your business has turned around, you've actually got more cash coming in with things like JobKeeper, etc. So I believe that what we're seeing real optimism to get back to face-to-face conferences, less lockdowns, better health situations, and there's cash in the economy. And I think that's the really positive thing. I've got to speak on behalf of all the cafes and hairdressers in North Sydney, because there's also still an underlying current of a lot of businesses that are struggling. And we can't forget them. So I think it's a tale of two tapes. I think as a country we've come through amazingly. I think the government's done a great job. There's a lot of optimism out there, but we can't ignore that retail. We were joking the other day about my hairdresser in North Sydney. Very quality hairdresser, I must say. But getting in before you guys. But the point is that there's not the same foot traffic in North Sydney. So he is way under. He's deferred rent, etc. But his talk to me is all of that cost is coming still. It's been deferred, not written off. So there's a real tale of two tapes, and that's what we're seeing.
Thanks, Sam. Luke, from your point of view, dealing with small businesses, you're seeing your own clients that are coming through, giving them advice on branding and positioning and transitioning. Digitisation's been a good thing. But what have you seen in terms of small business navigating the last 12 months?
Yeah, it's a good question. So a little bit more about our business. We're a full service branding agency that assists SMEs across Australia with their technology, their branding. A lot of businesses are in a different sort of state of survival, growth, and performance. We're diversified in our client base, so we cover small, tiny businesses right through to larger enterprises. And as our own business, we're up about 15% year on year, which is pretty crazy considering the times. Without the tourism and the hospitality sectors, our client roster has gone strength to strength. So there are businesses out there that haven't been affected. And our business is being diversified. It's enabled us to double down on what we do best, and that's provide value. A lot of our clients have come to us with confusion, specifically around technology and sort of services that are directly in the wheelhouse of accountants, which you guys which is my primary purpose of being here, is to try and connect that, because there are similarities. It's sort of like, if your business is doing okay, there's all this influx of, you've got to get online, you've got to go to e-commerce, you've got to communicate, you've got to work from home. There's an influx of technology, especially big tech. You look at the big five with Google, Facebook, Amazon, and so forth. It's an overwhelming amount of information to take in, and they're really good at taking the money out of your back pocket. And so a lot of the things we've been dealing with is helping SMEs slow it down a bit, make longer term decisions in a time of sort of great stress, and not think that, all of a sudden I have to shift my entire business process to digital and then make it perform straight away. Inherently, technical's hard to understand, hard to onboard. While it removes humans a lot, it actually needs smart humans to get value out of it and have technology work properly. And our kind of end goal is to build brand, to service the business, to build equity and sustainability in any small business, which end up being better clients for accountants. But if you don't have a smart human to communicate that and stop the really powerful big tech businesses taking money out of your client's back pocket quicker than they can put it in, it just adds to the anxiousness of, we know we have to do it, but we don't really know where we should go first, because any referrals are usually to the big tech. You got to do this on Facebook, you got to do this on Google, you got to go to Salesforce, and they're all US dollar companies with US bucks. Go back 12, 18 months, the US dollar was around 60 cents or something, and so everything was actually quite expensive. And so to kind of answer the question, it was a lot of giving sort of astute advice to slow it down and try and apply the right technology to your business to get results in the long term and not disrupt any further. Use it as a solution, not a more confusing avenue.
So I really like that point that technology is one thing, but it still requires people.
Of course.
And sometimes there's that assumption that a tech solution is the answer, but actually either way, we're just not there with completely independent artificial intelligence. Like at the end of the day, we need people, don't we?
You need collaborations and partnerships to nurture that through. Like everybody knows in this room, business doesn't happen overnight. It takes 10 years of anything considered to their successful business, and to implement new systems and processes, it's about collaborative efforts and kind of the partnership together, which is, I guess, what I'm trying to influence you guys with today.
Good on you. Now, in terms of the financing space, so Alex, you've seen your organisation, Prospa, gets to see businesses coming, you get a sense of the growth that's taking place. You'll see probably firsthand those green shoots taking place across the economy. What's the last 12 months been for you, and what are you seeing emerging now?
Yeah, it's funny, I'm already picking up themes, and we talked earlier about, just bouncing off each other, but between Andrew finding time to learn AI during everything you were doing is just phenomenal.
And did everyone get that? I apparently did a course.
Which is amazing, but I love what Luke said around smart humans and what smart means, because I think, in parallel of technology, for those that don't know, Prospa is our organisation or our product solution. Here is Reckitt Loans today, and a fantastic partnership with Reckitt and the IPA. But we leverage the best of data that's available, which is why we've been referred to as a big tech. Basically, that means we're a finance company that lacks legacy. So we embrace the best of the best technology data that's available to assess risk and do it fast. Now, that's been a huge blessing over the last 12 months, but nevertheless, what we went through was unprecedented even for us. So whilst we have the ability to analyse over 450 data points in seconds, what data can we draw upon in an unprecedented situation? So we need smart humans. And for me, smart means common sense, logic. When you're assessing risk in an unprecedented environment, what is the hairdresser doing to navigate the waters now? A loan may be the solution, it may not be. And often they're turning to their accountants as their trusted advisor, or counsellor, or everything else they've been expected to do over the last 12 months to work out solutions. So we've seen the lending landscape across Australia close, like the hairdressers did, like the cafes did, and that's exactly what shouldn't have happened. Now the government stepped up with schemes and initiatives in place to help support lenders, and we're really fortunate to be called out as one of the first to be part of that program. The difference is we're in the business of finding solutions. So our technology, coupled with smart humans, gave us the ability to put money out the door, and that's what helps small business owners. So now we are starting to see some green shoots. But I do overlay that with we're not out of the woods yet. And there's certainly some sectors that aren't even seeing the light at the end of the tunnel yet. And they're saying it could be still a year away until international borders become open and certainly more fluid in terms of tourists coming in and out. So, there's steps in place for that review, and we're certainly advocating for those industries, hospitality, tourism, especially places like North Queensland, that are still struggling. But when we're busy, it generally is a good sign that the economy is starting to really bounce back, because we generally play in areas where there's opportunity. So our product helps facilitate growth, and we know through crisis comes opportunity, and opportunity requires capital. What you're going to hear today is how all of us play a role in helping to stimulate and really fast track some of that growth so that we can do more face-to-face events.
Good. Thanks, Alex. So obviously the profession, we've heard around the transition we're going through and all of that, and it's all wonderful to be talking like that. But when we think about it, as discussions all today have been about your role facing clients and the important role you have in terms of being at the that front line. We'll say it first, they're around the front line of economic recovery. We've had obviously the health profession at the front line of the pandemic, but now we're looking at what our role is collectively to help resource the recovery. Sam, I wonder what your thoughts are in terms of that notion of the accounting profession leading that recovery.
Yep.
And are we ready for it? And if so, great, but if not, where are some areas we could be enhancing?
Yeah, great question and great acknowledgement. I think the profession in our view, my view, is we are ready for it. I really think this is an opportunity, but it's not going to be easy. And just look at the last 12 months you've had. And this is what we saw. So we service small businesses with products like IPA, Books Plus, Reckon One, and we service accountants with products like Reckon Elite and Reckon APS. And the minute lockdowns happened and government stimulus happened, we saw a big spike in inquiries, information and interest in things like Books Plus. Because imagine being a business that didn't have your accounts up to date. How do you show the government that your revenue's down? How do you submit single touch payroll information. Like every business should be on single touch payroll, but there's still the laggards, a couple of 100,000. So we saw a huge spike in businesses and advisors contacting us saying, this is the time I need those 5 free Books Plus licenses to get my businesses back online and get their accounts up to date. And then we saw a spike of accounting firms saying, I think I need to be in the cloud because I've got to go and work from home, got to go and work remotely. And that's a very logical point. But it was interesting, what we saw in our APS and Elite clients is that even the firms that, and what went to, say, Elite Online or APS Online, but even the firms that weren't 100% in the cloud were able to go home and have their staff connect to their infrastructure and work. So all of a sudden, we saw the accounting profession say, well, one of the benefits of cloud was work anywhere. We've actually got that with technology like networks and hosted infrastructures, etc. And then the next thing we heard from accountants was, we need help, but I'm too busy to talk now. And by we need help, we wanted to, the accounting profession was saying to us, we want to streamline our processes, I want to streamline my clients' processes, but we are just simply too busy. And I believe you would have felt it all in this room. You're busy because every small business in Australia needed help, needed advice, needed support, needed to comply to get government stimulus. Who do they go to? Well, they go to their trusted advisor. And we've spoken about that. I mean, you said our partnership, Andrew. I've spoken at IPA events for 7 years. And I was actually looking, because I knew I'd said this, I looked at a presentation I did 5 years ago on the Gold Coast, and the first slide was, there's never a better time to be an accountant. That's what I said 5 years ago. I think I was 5 years early. Because my point was, technology can streamline processes. Businesses and individuals and high net worth individuals are screaming for help, advice, and you are the trusted advisor. You're the profession that is there to support them. So, a very long-winded way of saying, is the profession ready? I think yes. Is it going to be easy? No. Why not? There's too much work, not enough skilled labour to handle the demand on the profession. However, I would say that equals opportunity. Because if there's more work than as a whole profession we can handle, there's opportunity in there. Not easy to take advantage of. And the technology angle is, I love your points, Luke. We often say that, even as a technology provider, you can't be technology-led unless you are very clear on what problem you're solving or what opportunity you're taking advantage of. If you just implement technology because we tell you it's a good idea, you're basically putting in what we're suggesting, not what you're designing, what your goal or your clients or your ambition is. So that's an absolute cracking point.
It's not about more compliance work. It's about forming partnerships and collaborations that enable you not just to be we're the accountant, every time something goes wrong with the numbers, go to the accountant. It's sort of like, it's your time to shine. You've got some rock star brands out there on the ASX, like Afterpay and stuff. As an accountant, you guys have centre stage right now to go there. It's our time. And we don't have to be that stereotypical accountant in the cubicle farm anymore. You guys can be the rock stars if you want. The opportunity's there. If you said this 5 years ago, then I'm saying it today. I see it as the opportunity to go, yeah, cool. We don't have to be experts. There's partners out there to help us, but our clients will directly benefit from a little bit of knowledge and some guidance, and it actually probably defers the relationship to a more positive way instead of just I'm busy. Yeah, everyone's suffering the same. It's more, no, there's a solution. Follow this sort of.
The only thing I'll add in terms of the advice, giving advice, what we've clearly seen is businesses have to comply first of all. That's another thing we've been saying for 5 years. Commentators have been saying compliance is dead. In fact, the accounting profession's got to be replaced. It's just not true. Compliance is not going anywhere. Hasn't been going anywhere for ages. Every time the current government sets down a budget, they're tweaking policy. Tax, superannuation, capital gains, and then the state governments chip in. Who is the only, well, not the only, but the best industry to know that? It's the accounting profession. So there's the last year, in my view, has proven the importance of that fundamental layer of compliance which is your bread and butter, which only once you've got that right can you add on advice and really that other value-add holistic.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be too complicated either. I think you guys live in a world of complexity, and then the advisory pathway, specifically for what we're about, branded marketing to your SMEs to make them better clients, you don't have to be an expert in that particular area. You just have to know what your partnerships are about and what they can offer. And if that's at the front of mind for a solution, you can start delivering positivity when the times are dire. And you guys are one of the most trusted professions, and at the core of any key decision making for an SME. Kind of use that power. For me, it just seems like accountants stereotypically in this area, and you behave that way because you're so busy and you got the knowledge. But for me, it's kind of like
Careful, mate.
I'm picking some fights here. Let's do it. So
Can I so pose a bit of a challenge? I mean, so I've asked each of the presenters to give us, a couple of things as some takeaways. So that's just to plant that seed for each of you as we when we come to the end of the session. But the challenge I'd pose is accounting as a brand, and we've mentioned in the discussion now around the external perception of accounting or accountants themselves. Those obviously engage accountants or people who come to IPO events know that's just not the case at all. But the profession does have a brand issue in a sense. So how do we combat that? And you talk, Luke, around the notion of, and what I'm taking away is a sense that an accounting practice themselves, whether it's a sole practitioner working from home, should be thinking about themselves as curating a platform, like a partnership platform. I mean, is that part of the way? And how do we help a sole practitioner in Broken Hill understand their brand value?
yeah, it's a really good question. I think all SMEs and accountants included, everybody's got their own specific way to run their business, and they've built their business on a history of processes and things, and putting brand on top of that I think is important because it provides longevity for the business, and it also provides a value add. And you got to remember, you got a retention of client, and then you've got a bunch of new people who start kind of businesses every year. Those new people, they're going to be sort of switched on to looking for more dynamic businesses to work with. If you sort of don't put a brand element into your business, the new sort of startups that are going to come out of COVID and situations like this, you're not going to be there. Cog Branding's lucky enough to be supported by a really dynamic accountant who's quite aware of those brand elements and how they create leverage for their own business. If you don't have that, you're competing on, I guess, your immediate referral and your legacy clients. There's no growth opportunities outside of your own legwork and doing the same thing, which is okay for some businesses. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're looking to provide a bit more dynamism in the market and sort of tap on some of these opportunities that are there, adding brand on top takes it away from the personal sort of position of the owner and builds equity in something else that can achieve far more than just one individual. I think that's
maybe an interesting thing is think about how many businesses have had to go online, websites, e-commerce, etc. And I really don't know how we're going to go here. But why don't we just get a show of hands? How many of you in the room for your practice have a good online presence that you're proud of? Like a website, maybe a show of hands on online presence? All right, I'm going to say 50%.
You get a website, you get a website. Everyone gets a website.
My point there is, take startup small businesses. They are thinking online first, not just because of the pandemic, but especially because of what we've seen in the pandemic. When they're thinking online first, they're going to be looking for online service and support. It doesn't change what you do in your business. It is just marketing or branding or positioning.
And Alex, all that needs to be funded. So what are you seeing in terms of businesses coming forward to actually seek finance, to actually, if you think about an accounting practice even, saying, before I go and give advice to my client, I want to make sure that my business, my own business is right first. I mean, are you seeing that coming through by way of contacts through Prospa?
Yeah, so we've seen a few different things, but they sort of all come together with a common goal, which is either survive or thrive. and we've seen both ends of that spectrum. There has been some industries through all of COVID that I tell you what, doing okay, right? It's been the best thing ever for their business. Arguably, you know, this industry, if you weren't busy during COVID, I don't know why you're here. Because the reality is there's opportunities for businesses, especially through e-commerce. And I'd probably like to not just echo, but reinforce that point, because I reckon within the next 10 years, you have to have a digital strategy. You have to have a digital presence. Because what we've seen over the last 12 months is people have had to undergo what would typically be a 10-year digital transformation journey in 10 weeks. Right? It just turned on its head. And that was the case of only one going to survive. And I think it's businesses like Luke's that you know have been there to help people navigate how, what do I do, where do I start? And again, you know, these opportunities require capital, and that's where we come in. And we see these opportunities where for some businesses getting access to 50 grand to get the stock they need, not the staff, because they didn't have a shop front anymore. But they worked out either an e-commerce strategy solution, or they were trading for some restaurants that were all mass production takeaway, right? And Uber Eats was going bananas. But they needed that capital where the cash flow wasn't coming in to get that off the ground. So there's a lot of different scenarios where we've really come to life to deliver the solution. But I also think we're not there yet. You know, you talked about talking about opportunity 5 years ago, and we talk about opportunity now. And in 5 years, we're going to be talking about whatever that new opportunity is again. It's like the people who are renting and trying to work out when is the right time to get into the property market and buy their first home. My answer is now. Now. Always now. Because tomorrow never comes, and tomorrow there'll be a different challenge, different opportunity. And you're always going to get stuck in this vortex. Whereas we know one thing, you get in now, in 10 years you'll be okay.
And it's not always about, I guess, just one person making all the decisions. This works with the perfect triangle. Perfect advice through the accountant, funding done the right way, someone like us to manage it and facilitate it and make sure that sort of what gets lent gets spent the right way. The accountant's gain at the core of it, managing the bottom line. For me, it's the collaborative thing that I think is the most empowering thing for the accountants to perhaps take away from this. Is that you're not in it alone. There's other businesses that really understand the lane you're driving in. It's sort of a two-way street. It's not like it's a direct competition. It's 50-50. It's complement.
We have seen, sorry, just to add to that, we have seen a lot of businesses who could have got money, but we've said no to because it wasn't the right solution for them. In fact, for some businesses, the right solution was to shut their doors temporarily, or for some, unfortunately, forever, because a loan would not get them out of trouble.
It's the sustainability part of it, which is key.
Correct, and that's where your role comes into this, and I said it's just so important. And we've talked about frontline of the economic recovery. I personally feel, you know, you should have, Coles and Woolies should have given you that hour early to do your shopping as well. You know, essential services, the unsung heroes, you know, we've talked about that. And we talk about the brand, going back to what that is. I just feel the term unsung heroes comes to me because you're not getting that hour, you're not getting that recognition of all the things you've had to do. Compliance, red tape, schemes, subsidies, like all these things that you've had to not just navigate change and a significant amount of change so that you could help support your clients, which is big enough. Then you had to fill the same inquiry and offer the same counselling, be it professional or personal, to every single client almost every day, every week, every month for now 12 months.
Yeah. And I think at the same time, run your own business in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting. So we, as you know, we're part of IFAC, the International Federation of Accountants, which has 180 member bodies. And the big discussion I think is having on the back of the global pandemic is the profession's very much at this sort of triple fork in the road. And that either we're going to keep doing the same things we've always done, we might keep doing the same things we've always done but using different tools and resources to do them, or we might fundamentally do new things. And there's a hell of a lot of excitement around those last two about, yes, to your point, Sam, around compliance not being dead. In fact, in many ways, compliance has probably been a saviour to the profession in the last 12 months. And we know that it's not dead. We know, but what's the sense, your sense, Sam, in terms of those new tools and resources to do the same jobs, and then what are the new jobs that accountants might be doing?
Yeah, it's a great question. First of all, on compliance saving the profession, I think compliance saves the economy. Because if we didn't have single-touch payroll, as painful as that was for a few years, if we didn't have single-touch payroll, the government had no real-time access to data to see what people were and weren't earning. If we didn't have up-to-date BAS and GST and tax returns, the government had no access to data to make the decisions. Do you know where the $1,500 came from? Yeah, it's the average hospitality wage. They made it that quick. And they said, I sat on a panel with the ATO, or a webinar panel, and they were getting hammered about the amount. How did you work that out? They said, we just looked at the most impacted industry and took the average salary, picked a number. We could have taken months trying to work something out. They could only do that because of the level of compliance and access to data. So I think it's not only saving the profession, it's saved our economy. When you think about do the same things we've done the same way, do the same things a different way, or do completely new things, I'd probably go the middle. Personally, in my view, I think we've been reminded of the importance of the profession and reminded of the job the profession does, and therefore we don't actually change our fundamental what we do, but if we can improve how we do it, how fast we can do it, and how openly, how we can make more money doing it, and live a better life ourselves as the profession, then that would be my recommendation.
So, just a question to members here then, how well do you think the profession's going at attracting talent? Who's got a position going in their practice? And if you had the capacity to employ someone, who would want to be employing someone right now? A graduate, for example. Yeah. Who's had graduates approach them? Who's employed the graduate? Well, that's encouraging. Some of the feedback we've had has been many graduates coming through that are just not ready. They come in the door, they might have the technical skills, but there is no way known we put them in front of the client. No common sense.
Yeah. This could spark a whole.
Yeah.
Sorry, how is that different to 40 years ago? Come on, the older ones amongst us, you recall back to when you came out of uni or out of TAFE, you knew some technical stuff, you had no skills.
Yeah, I think the challenge we've had, the feedback we've had from some members in other parts of Australia has been that the quality of graduates coming through, they're great, very good technical skills, generally, but there's a bit of the would you be confident in putting them in front of a client from day one? No, but the expectation that some employers have is that's what they get, that they're expecting universities and TAFE to actually produce students who are on day one absolutely job ready. Now, that's never been the case. But I think what we've got to do is manage this expectation gap around the supply chain we have as a profession and obviously step up. So I suppose the reason why I'm asking the question, it speaks again to the brand of the profession and how we go about attracting talent. And what can we be doing within our own practices to try and boost that? And does that, Luke, I think, form part of the value proposition the actual practice itself has, even at a very small scale?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, to make a really obvious example, you look at what's called the Googleplex, right? I've got like slipper dips and sleep pods and kind of midday masseuse and all that kind of stuff. In our industry, there's a reality of that costs a lot of money, and there's this vacuum towards those businesses that have a huge amount of funds to pull smart people away. Now, I use big tech a lot because they're at the forefront of so many things which are changing industries. There's huge gaps in the smartest traditional industries because big tech has the ability to pay these really smart people a ridiculous amount of money. And there's a vacuum away, and that's going to continually happen because largely they're still unregulated. You see in the news about Google News and social media and all that. That's not going away, and that's going to continually be a place of appeal for people because one, the money's there and the conditions are great. And it's not necessarily smoke and mirrors, but you need to provide a workplace that is stimulating. And if you've got smart people ready to make a decision on what they should do with their career, is accounting and what you guys do still going to be considered? For me, I have no knowledge on it, but I only know when people come to send our business their resume or consider doing strategy, digital, or design. Those disciplines, they're like, I'm not sure. What do I get? What does the kind of work sort of life balance look like? There's tons of data out there now that says what I get paid is not necessarily the most important thing. And so again, you put brand at the top, but removes the principle of the accounting firm away from the conversation. And the people looking to go, I've chosen accounting, is this the firm I want to align with? There's brand touch points that are going to stimulate that. And it can make hiring a lot easier because the brand's got leverage to go, I like that. They speak my language. They look dynamic. We do park days, we go on team rides, we do some crazy stuff that's outside of what we normally do. And that's all part of just that discussion of branding and finding smart people to do smart things. And time in the saddle, the young kid's never going to know how to do all the things that 40 or 50-year-old accounting veteran are going to do. But you need to get smart people in the business to show them that pathway through the business to learn those things. And you've got to have retention, you've got to stick around, and brand and business go together.
To add to that, if you look at the data suggesting is suggesting within the next 5 years, 50% of small business owners in Australia will be millennials. So just ponder that thought for a second. When we talk about lack of common sense, or lack of logic,
No common sense.
right? Very book smart. Like one of the challenges our country has is shortage in trades because everyone's going to university now, everyone's getting a degree. Fewer, teenagers are opting for a trade today. So that is an issue in itself that we face or are facing now. I've always been a big believer, certainly when I recruit, is I try and recruit people who complement my weaknesses. Right? So I'm really crap at something, hopefully I'm going to get someone who's going to fix that.
I find that the industry knows the nitty-gritty of what the industry wants to but they know but it's doing it necessary to get the rest of it.
Yes.
And I think things like that.
So that comment was if they're generally TAFE trained, they're sort of more job ready. So I don't know how to fix the other issue, but the reason why I talk about where millennials are going to be playing a role in small business owners is, and whatever digital journey you're contemplating or going on or haven't even started, there's merit in probably investing in some of these people in the early days, because if you're not that way inclined, I can tell you you'll teach them how to do a reconciliation, and they will also be managing your online chat room for your other millennial clients at the same time as doing a reconciliation whilst updating their social media. Right? So they're juggling these balls, and you wonder, what on earth are you doing? Why on social media? Well, they're actually capable of doing 5 things at once. You can argue the toss around their social skills, right? They can be questionable, but online social skills, well, smile, selfie, done. That's about it. So I think in all these come opportunities that we need to look for and embrace. There's no silver bullet, there's no real answer to that, unless we've got to sort of understand what the landscape is looking like.
The whole profession deserves a rebrand or a refresh.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen by itself.
No.
Obviously.
So it brings us to the point where we can, if there are any questions anyone has, and I sort of generate a little bit of conversation. If there are any questions or comments anyone has, we've picked up a few of them already. Yeah, Daniel, I'll come over to you.
I've got about 5 and I had a cup of tea and I don't normally drink caffeine, so I have to just prepare to talk slowly. Also, very nice being here and seeing everyone as well. I'll go backwards in time because that will make life easy for myself. So the point you just touched on, finding people, like I just turned 40 last month, and you say the industry as a whole, like I look in the room, is there anybody under 30 in the room? So there might be, you don't have to put your hand up. So I segue back to, we had the mining boom, so that was, I don't know, because a father-in-law who worked in it and my ex-wife's family is from that. And so after around 2000, that's where everyone went and actually used that to get a pay bump, because I was getting the pips without getting paid. I said, mate, I could go ditch this job and drive a truck for this much money. Now, as you pointed out, having worked with a bit of software as well, you can do a very short, there's a certificate of degree to be a coder, and like a developer, which is the ones who type the software programs. That job walk in, I think, is 120k a year. I used to do a few of their tax returns, and I'm like, you can do that at 20 years old. And it's a mindset of a job to do, obviously, people suit that role. But if I'm 20 years old and it's like, I can walk in with, say, it's a 3-month course and do that and get paid that kind of money. The young generation, I just referenced my nephew's 20, it's commitment, getting someone to commit to the level of knowledge that they're going to need to be able to do our job proficiently. How do you get them to commit to that?
That's the key thing, is commitment, because you're right in my wheelhouse with this development thing and getting paid big bucks. You'd be surprised there's a massive vacuum for our business. I can't find someone who was born and raised in Australia to code for me. I've got a Nepalese guy, a French guy, a German guy, an Indian guy. And it's very hard to find someone who is a typical white bread Aussie who can client face and have a conversation, but also have the commitment, as you say. And I don't think that's industry related. I think you guys in your industry find exactly the same thing. The millennial thing, it's not their fault. They're a product of their environment.
And that's when they're adaptable. So that's the mean to say, like in the account, I joke with people say, I've only been an accountant and I still will be young at that. I said, I've only been doing it for 20 years. Like, it's just a thing.
I just want to make a comment on that. We employ 80 developers, Australia, New Zealand, and some in the US, where we've got a US. You're exactly right. It's very hard to find good coders. It's a very competitive market because they do look at an Atlassian in Australia with a slippery dip or something. I said we'll put a slippery dip in if we have to. I look at that, just listening to you, because I was thinking, you're right, it's very hard. We've got about 15 dev roles open at the moment, and they're very hard to fill. I just feel like saying this, our CFO earns a lot more than our development team. Our accountant...
Yeah, they're the accounting roles,
Our accountant earns a lot more than our development team. So I actually think my advice to my kids is, if you could go and study something, study commerce. You can take that to any business, any industry. Whether you're a small business, you need finance, business advice to manage that business. And the bigger you get, the more you need and the more important it is. And we've spoken in these kind of forums about doing something different, Andrew, you mentioned. It is different doing the same work in a different way. You know, and people talk about a virtual CFO. All that means is less clients, more time on specific clients doing all of their finance. But there's structures in there, and I believe that there's also money in there for the profession.
Cool. If I can, one more thing, I'll quickly jump completely to do with what you started with at the start. I was going to say marketing, advertising, and all of that lovely things together. I think about collectively as an accountant, we're time poor to put into the classic work on our business because we're generally working in it, and that's a classic thing that you tell clients to do. I'm going to pose it to you three collectively. and the broader approach to make it simple for us to be able to say, send a nice email out. Because I find even now clients go, I didn't know you could do that, or I didn't know you could help with, getting, and it's giving them knowledge to see that. So it's touch points, like even getting on social media and things like that. So the point is, if you could collectively put a lovely white paper email together where I can, I drop it into MailChimp and which sends out your emails, and bang, boom out to my clientele, because I'd love to, I've got scope to do more work now, and I can use that as a touch point.
Ceezar at the front. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but it's brand associated with you guys, so that's what I'm saying. I'm sending it out. It's from me, but it has, hyperlinks to all that, and it's, this is what our industry associates with. If you need this, bang, here's the hyperlink to that.
We've done that for years now, so we have the ability to send out information on our product, our service, and it's basically white label marketing. It's not a full white label program, but white label marketing where it's ABC accountants talking to you about if you need access to working capital or you've got cash flow issues, we can do this, and it highlights a case study. In fact, you can then have a link within that EDM that takes it through to a dynamic landing page, which we'll create for you. So you don't even, whether you've got a website or not, it'll look, feel your brand and have video testimonials in there. And if they're still interested, they click here. We will contact 95% of the leads we get within 5 minutes on your behalf. So we've got partners who deal with us and reckon loans and they find by the time they check their emails, because we notify you in real time that inquiry's been lodged, by the time they've either found out about it, it's settled, and a commission is on its way. So I think there's real leverage and something I'm looking to try and break the barrier down is there's real leverage in the people in this room here and across the country to leverage the trusted advisory role to drive that education awareness of what options are available to them, but equally for the people in this room to start working on their business and not in their business, because it's a hard thing to do, but it will pay dividends, because the sort of stuff we were talking earlier, Luke, about people who are a bit gun shy because at some stage somewhere in the past someone convinced them to spend 10 grand on some social media marketing and they felt they blew their money, never got any sort of ROI on it. Why would I do it again? They're a bit gun shy, and it doesn't mean it's not the right strategy. It just may not have been executed well.
Yeah, I think circling back to, was it how you approach this, and somewhere in the middle is the measured approach. Be a bit measured, be a bit considered. Know it's right there. You don't have to go crazy, and you shouldn't just leave it in the cupboard and ignore it. I think if you just take a moderate approach to it and at least address it and consider it, and then have a look at what it can do for not only your own firm but your clients. You only have to chip away a little bit of percentage of your day. It's like the mechanic's car, it's a hunk of junk, right? Don't have a hunk of junk, just kind of tune the engine and keep it going.
But I think we've got to look at the word community as well. And in this room, you are a community. And that's what we love about working with the IPA. And just like Alex said, we've got it. So if you become a cloud advisor with Books Plus, we have a cloud advisor hub where you can basically take all of that material branded for you and sent out to your clients exactly what you were talking about. The communities exist. You've got to take advantage of it.
Well, that's this gentleman, he just turned around to me and he said, so when are they going to send out the template? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Where?
Yeah. Have a chat to the good-looking guys.
That's what I'm saying. It's more something that collectively does it all and makes it simple for us. Like we get a once a month. Here it is.
Yeah.
I'd like to use it bang in this sort of thing. I know we can always self-serve and we tell them to do that, but for us to be able to do that, it's just a very quick, easy thing.
No, absolutely. And look, we are doing more of that from a partnership point of view. That's the intention, is to make sure it is deliverable and consumable and all that. So it's meeting those needs. So you don't then have to go through and navigate through our website and all that. So it's about truly that sense of platform. So we're happy to explore that a bit further as well. So thank you. We always knew when we set up this conversation that we'd have 3 people on stage that we wouldn't have trouble filling 45 minutes. I said we're standing between now and lunch, but I'm going to pose a question for each of you to come up with just one key takeaway for members to go and apply as they leave this session or even over the lunch break. Perhaps beyond going and engaging the desks, because that's important with their partners. But what sort of one key thing you'd suggest members do from this event today, Sam?
Mine would be, I don't think today we've spoken enough about taking care of yourself and mental health. And I know it was a topic we thought we could cover. We don't have time to cover it. We did a research piece at the start of 2020 based on the bushfires mainly, on resilience and building resilience. And what it came back with was to say those who do self-care, and that could be fitness, exercise, eat well, drink less, meditation, etc. Those who ask for help, so get together in groups like this, learn from each other, are more resilient than the average business, so that when challenges happen, like a worldwide pandemic, they can respond and push through. My comment would be, take care of yourself first and foremost, and anything can be built on top of that.
Excellent. Luke?
It's a good question. I think for me, I wrote an opinion piece on a public accountant called A Hot Date for the Accountant. I suggest just read through that. It's a bit of a comedic take on step outside your lane just a little bit to start to collaborate with other professionals who have a genuine interest in your clients. And that's sort of collaborate and look to engage. And just kind of step outside the stereotypical accountant bubble.
Thanks. Allert?
I think congratulations, you've survived so far, right? So I think just to echo the same sentiment around mental health, I would just throw it out there for the men in this industry. We're really generally, stereotypically, really ordinary and talking about our feelings, emotions. And because we've not been able to actively go to the pub so much, that's where we'll normally, be a little bit more open in sharing. So it is nice to be able to come together like today to be able to, sort of network. I would also echo the sentiments around being resourceful. There are a lot of people who are willing to help, ready, willing, able to help either access the technology, resources, marketing, brand. You don't have to do it all yourself. The association has amazing tools. Rather than looking for it, reach out. I love the fact that there's very few people I know of that head up an organisation such as the IPA and actively have the CEO say, he's my number, write it down. Right, like just a shout out to you. I thought that was incredible, right? Because normally I would just call my people, so
Members are paying for it.
but I think reach out and explore. I would encourage you all to make one significant change, a milestone to your business in the next few months, because there's still a lot coming down the pipe. We've got changes to JobKeeper. We've got federal budget. You're going to have still a hell of a lot more noise to navigate. So try and find ways to make yourself time, build a scalable business, and ultimately help your clients grow.
Excellent. Well, thank you.